Right, there we are. Right, hello everyone, and welcome to Female Leaders on Fire Live. And today, we're going to be talking all about confidence. And Amy will introduce herself in a minute, but this I think is really, really important. And what we're going to talk a little bit about is how confidence tends to be slightly different for women who are leading versus men who are leading, and how it can kind of show up in slightly different ways. So, and I think confidence is so important to having that impact and that influence that you want to be a real force of good. So I think this is a huge, huge topic. And on the podcast episodes, this was the most popular so far, talking about confidence last week. So yeah, so I'm super excited for today. So for those that don't know me, I'm Nicola Buckley. So I help female leaders, those senior leaders in the corporate world, I help them to find their fire. So I help them to refine that passion, that purpose, that excitement, and really fall back in love with what they do, but they're not negotiating, they're not compromising who they are, and they're not sacrificing themselves. So they do it in a really high energy way that feels good, and they become a real driver of change in the corporate world. So yeah, and today I've got one of my brilliant friends from my coaching diploma, Amy, and she's going to introduce herself in a minute. But Amy and I probably have known each other for, well, when we started in September. Did we know each other before? I don't know. I think
so. No, I think we met, didn't we?
No, I think so. Yeah. And I wanted to get her on because she specialises in supporting people with confidence, and also just she has a great energy and slightly different perspective than me. And I think I love having conversations rather than just, I can talk for Britain about any of this stuff, and I love it. I think it's different energy when you're having a conversation and you're having a bit of a discussion. So welcome, Amy. I'm super excited that you're here. Do you just want to start off by introducing yourself and share with everyone a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
My name is Amy Leighton. I am a mindset and confidence coach, and also a public speaking trainer as well. And I help creative, ambitious business owners and professionals to be able to overcome limiting beliefs, to be able to flip their script on things that might be holding them back, and to be able to realize their potential as well. So it's a nice mix of things, being able to work on the public speaking side of things and being able to put yourself out there, but then also the mindset shifts that may need to happen to allow that to be able to work in the way that you want it to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they fit so well together, don't they? Because I think like public speaking, there's a lot around it, a lot of the foundations there are confidence, aren't they, really? To stand up, to speak out, to be in front of everyone, to show up and be yourself as you're speaking, rather than become someone different and who you think you need to be rather than who you actually are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be so easy for people to go, well, just look more confident, just like,
Yes, I hate that.
Sound a bit better, open your arms, and don't cross your legs and you'll be fine. But actually there is so much more to it. So yeah, as you say, they blend really nicely together.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's like this pop psychology school of confidence, isn't there? That excuse me, I remember I got it in a few development reviews in my corporate career. I worked in corporate marketing for 16 years. I ran multi-million-pound launches, but especially early on in my career, I was quite a shy, retiring version of Nick, this Cornish girl that had gone up to Yorkshire and then gone into marketing. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do, if I'm honest. But I do think, I remember my performance reviews, I used to get feedback like, you need to improve your confidence. So then my well-meaning boss would then put me on a confidence program, which, you can generally, you assume you're going to work a little bit on how you're feeling and just, how to appear more confident. And then you might be falling back onto people with the team stuff that you do, and they catch you and it's like, oh, I'm confident now. It's all there. And then it never actually, for me, that never worked. And I think there's a place for the hacks and the tips and all that brilliant stuff, but we know it's much more deeply rooted. So for women that really struggle with that confidence, what do you think is kind of at the heart of it?
Oh, good question. A lot of things that I see, a lot of women that I tend to work with, on the whole, there's always something that's going, I know I could do better, but actually I'm stuck here.
Yeah.
And I don't really believe that I can get there, but I want to get there, and I'm frustrated with where I am now.
Yeah.
So it's almost some sort of feeling of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Around where they're at and where they're going. And it might be as well that actually they have lost direction of who they are and where they are going for themselves as an individual, and they've taken on so much of what's going on around them.
Yeah.
Actually, it really is getting back to basics and going, right, who am I?
Yeah.
What do I value? What do I really like doing? What do I dislike? I'm really working from the ground up to be able to put that foundation in place.
Yeah, definitely. Because I do think there's a place for, if you're about to do a big presentation, you're really not feeling confident, like to ground yourself and to breathe and to visualize, or to know that you have some supporters in the room and that kind of thing. But I'm similar to you, and I don't teach and coach confidence per se. I teach Adam's just asked, are these points specific to women? No, Adam, not at all. So yeah. Adam's also asked, do you use psychedelics to aid mindset shifts? Personally, no. I know there's a whole industry that goes on with that, but no, mine is the way I teach and coach confidence, for example, with my clients is not, I'm not going to teach and coach tips and tricks. There might be some more tactical things for a particular scenario, but at the heart of it is like exactly like you said, is that who am I? What are my values? What beliefs might be holding me back? What's my story? What's my language, and how do I speak to myself? And those big kind of foundation stones then build into, well, this is who I am. And I think it's a real struggle to be confident when you're constantly looking externally outside yourself for that validation, or to fit in, or to have approval, or to ask permission. Why do you think so many women take almost like the external view is more important than that internal kind of feeling and sense of, this is who I am?
So I think it's that feeling, I'm going to say the words fight or flight. And I think it's that survival instinct of wanting to fit in. Yeah. And wanting to be accepted by the group. Back in the day when we were having to fight for our food, if we were not part of a tribe or part of a pack, we were going to find it really difficult to survive.
Yeah.
Actually, as women on the whole, and again, going back to Adam's point, we are using men and women and, the genders around there, but these two things can absolutely overlap between the genders. But on the whole, us as women have carried that on, and there is very much that feeling of wanting to be accepted, wanting to be seen to do well. And, on the whole as well, there's not necessarily as many women in management positions as there are men. So there is that lack of role models to be able to look.
That's huge
as well. So, the guidance around it and being able to look forwards and have that ambition may not be there. Yeah.
I think the more I focus on working with women in the corporate world, I've really found that lack of role modeling is really, it's just, I think one of my clients described it, and she did this amazing survey of women in her area she created a women's network in this particular area of a big organization, and the words she used just really hit home with me, that you can't be what you can't see. So if you don't have a role model of a powerful female leader who's standing tall and strong in who she is and leading in a more intuitively female way. And I talk about this in the podcast this week, that actually there's a lot of gender stereotypes that are quite toxic, like men behave like this, women behave like this. It's like, well, that's actually bullshit, because we all need parts of both. We need at times to be really assertive. We also need at times to trust our intuition. So it's very much, for me, it's very much that kind of combination. But I think the further you get up the corporate ladder, we still see it now. If you don't have those role models, it's really hard. Like, what am I, who am I aspiring to be like? Or actually there's a lot of men at the very top. So does that mean I need to be a bit more kind of male-led in terms of my behavior, to kind of, I recognize the senior team, then recognize that because that's how they lead. Why do you think there's that kind of difference in terms of that confidence for men and for women within the corporate world? What do you think's kind of at the heart of it? Big, we're going in big today, aren't
You
we?
know what? I think there's also a feeling of, well, if I can't see those females in the kind of roles that I want to go into, for me as a female trying to pave the way, actually, what does that mean if I want to go and get married? What does that mean if I want to have a family, or I have a family, or I want to have kids? Do I then have to actually be more male and have more masculine energy than feminine energy in the way that I show up? And does that mean then that I have to grind? And actually, does grind is success then linked to grind and hustle and hard work and lack of work-life balance? And I think that feeling of success, and actually what that word success means as well, can be so ambiguous, especially if that path has not been paved before. So I think there can be real uncertainty, and maybe sometimes that feeling of, well, actually it's easier and it's safer for me to stay where I am because I know what's expected of me. I know that I can balance things in the way that I need, and actually I don't know, the more that I go up the ladder, I don't know what that looks like because nobody's ever done it before. So there can be a real feeling of hesitancy around that as well.
And it's interesting. So I've worked with clients before that have come to me, and they're really inspiring. They're high achievers. And when we've gone through kind of like the Find Your Fire model to understand what they want and, that real in depth who they are, actually, some of the time they realize what they have is all that they want. They're just not quite in it. They're just over-giving and they're over-functioning and they're trying to be everything to everyone. Whereas if we could just bring ourselves back to who we are and what's important and have that confidence that actually, it's not saying I don't want to get to the next level, but actually I want to do that in my way. And I'm not willing to compromise this element of my life for my career anymore. So actually, maybe this isn't the right. Some clients have just wanted to stay where they are and make the best of it. Other clients have gone part-time. Some clients have moved organization into a bigger role, and that organization was just more of a fit for them. And I think it's, for me, confidence, I think the way that we teach and coach it in a slightly different way, but both from kind of very from the heart, means that women have that confidence to make those bold decisions. It's not just, the career ladder isn't always upwards. Sometimes for some women, it's actually, I'm going to leave and follow my heart and create a passion business. Actually, for some women, it's like, I want to change the lives of other women like me, so I'm going to become a coach. Or some women, it's like, no, I know I could be on the board and I'm going to get there. But I know that I want to do that as me. I don't want to compromise who I am anymore, and being confident enough. And that role modeling of being a confident, powerful female leader and like saying no, or setting those boundaries, or that's not good enough for me, or I demand to have equitable pay with my male colleagues and things like that. But I think it takes that inner confidence to challenge all those premises that women face.
Absolutely. And there can be, whatever perception you've got of a powerful woman who leads, who says no, who is assertive, that perception that you have might not actually feel comfortable to you as well. So and I know, in terms of your coaching as well, what I find really powerful about coaching in general is that it does give you the opportunity to be able to explore what will work for you. And it gives you the confidence to understand that, and then to find a way of thinking, well, actually, how can I then begin to implement some of this that is actually not necessarily what other people have done, but it's the way that is going to work for me, and it's finding that right blend. And that is why coaching is so powerful, as opposed to just go into the meeting and say it. Why are you not saying it? Like, come on. And that, because that can then go into a really negative spiral. So it's all about helping people to build up, as opposed to putting all these external pressures on people and holding people down.
Definitely. And a big part of the coaching that I do is helping my clients create their own toolkits. So it's almost like toolkit for the day that I just have a really shit meeting with my boss, or toolkit for the day that I'm going into the big board presentation. I really need to make it just fly. Or I think like you said, it's that individual toolkit. So I'm not it's not coaching if I'm just telling you and I'm just giving you tools. I can make suggestions, but you try them on like you would clothes, and you see if they work for you, and then you change the fit or the style or the color, or, you know, if we're using that same analogy. So what do you find really helps with your clients around confidence? What frameworks really help them, or what ideas really helps them to kind of start to see that confidence in themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with a framework which is connect, align, thrive. So the idea of giving them the space to connect with where they're at right now, whether that's in a coaching session, or actually whether that's that they are approaching a difficult conversation, for example, at work, or they have to go and give a presentation, just to be able to connect with what's going on for them right there and then in the moment. And then align. So think about where they want to be and where they want to be going and what a successful outcome might look like for them.
Yeah.
And the thriving element is then working out what those steps are between them. And that could be, you know, just getting 1% closer. So it's not as if we're having to make big monumental change overnight. You know, long-lasting change is not about that.
Yeah, agree.
And, you know, you could go in and have a really difficult conversation with someone that you've been really ramping yourself up for, but then actually every conversation is not necessarily going to be the same, and each of them are going to have their own challenges. So, you know, it's about just taking those small, tiny steps that you can implement on a consistent basis to be able to create that deep-rooted change. And that is something that, you know, clients have found really beneficial is, you know, okay, so it might be that I'm not confident enough to go to a meeting and be able to say what I want to say, but actually, is there somewhere else where I can start to assert myself? Even if it's just, do you know what, actually tonight for dinner, I don't fancy going to that restaurant. Can we go to this one instead?
Yeah.
And it's starting to work out, okay, where can I be a little bit more assertive and start to practice those different things in a no pressure situation, which will then begin to build that confidence.
Yeah. I call it a brave streak.
Yeah. Yeah, I love
like
that.
Starting to kind of just, like, if you imagine your comfort zone, we're all comfortable in a comfort zone. And I think corporate world, sometimes it can be easy to get caught in that. And I think it's a different thing around consciously taking a breath and kind of making the most of where you are, if you've got good balance and you're enjoying what you're doing, versus, you know, comfort zone and it's just starting to feel a bit monotonous, or it's starting to feel a bit like, I'm not sure how much longer I want to do this. And the brave streak, I'll share about a client of it, but brave streak is all about, just like you said, just something you wouldn't normally do, a small step forward with it, like a little bit, like makes your heart flutter a little bit and go, oh my God, like, am I actually gonna do that? And I remember one client who went from being, she was very senior in organization anyway, she'd done incredibly well, brilliant lady to work with. And what was amazing to see is that she'd lost her confidence because she'd been off work with stress and anxiety. As she came back, we were helping her kind of make a plan to come back. And then she just started on this brave streak, and they tried to push her into a different area. For example, she just said, no, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. She would be the one to speak up in meetings. She became a mental health advocate across her area of the business. There was just loads of things that she suddenly like, yes, I want to do this. And it started with the smaller things. It built into this whole brave streak. And by the time we finished working together, she was a bit of a kind of almost like a Beyonce in the office, just kind of Braveheart Beyonce. And she was the one that was kind of known for maybe challenging a bit or saying no or asserting herself. And and it was absolutely amazing to see. We've got some comments actually. So I can't see who this is. I'll have a look after we finish, but I completely agree with you, Nicola. I found that mentorship is really useful in finding a role model too. Yeah, absolutely. And I had female mentors and male mentors in the corporate world. And what I found brilliant about having mentor was it was almost like drop the gender across the gender spectrum is almost irrelevant. That person was there for me and have regular contact. But if you needed something in on that particular day, or you were building up to like a big meeting, or you wanted some support, that would be the person I would go to. So they're kind of role modeling for me, helping me create my own framework of being myself at work and showing up as myself. So in that respect, the men and the women that I work with and who were my mentors, all of them were brilliant in different ways,
Mm.
because I got that space and I got that nudges, and I got their kind of experience, their years and years of experience, and having done so well, and space to create my own version of that. So definitely. We've got Rachel who's responding to Adam, saying these points specific to women. So I'd say no. Adam Stevens makes me feel uncomfortable using terminology like male energy and female energy. I feel both sexes. Yeah, absolutely, Rachel. Completely agree. I think those are terms that are kind of known across the coaching industry. But for me, like I said, and the podcast kind of covers that this week, almost we can get to the point where gender assumptions and stereotypes become so toxic that it's almost like, if you're a man and you want to take time off to spend more time with your family or be a stay-at-home dad, could you potentially be judged for that? Or if you're a woman and you just naturally are more comfortable in being really assertive, are you judged for that? And I think it becomes, where I'd love leadership to get to is almost becomes genderless, and let's just help someone be a freaking amazing leader in their way, with that mix of more kind of assumed masculine skills and assumed kind of feminine traits, and we all need those at different times. And yeah, absolutely, just say people and drop the divide. Yeah, absolutely, Adam. I just happen to work more with women, so and
I think a lot of research that has been done in the workplace as well around male and female leaders has those, does have that gender divide, because that is the worlds that, up until very recently, it has been male and female. And I think actually the brilliant thing, and Rachel, you were absolutely right, the brilliant thing is that now we have got more awareness around diversity and inclusion. And so, it is about now being able to change that and being able to acknowledge that everybody is a person, everybody is an individual, everybody is a human being, and we're all going to have these different traits that, as you said, Nick, will pop up for us at different times. So how can we create that equality within the workplace so that someone who wants to go off paternity leave for 6 months is able to do so without being judged, or so that the woman who is assertive isn't necessarily judged as bossy? How are we able to create an inclusive environment within the workplace so it is possible to be equal, so that then we are able to include, and appreciate people for who they are, as opposed to the gender and the stereotypes that come with that.
And I do think it is as well, being as part of that. Absolutely, I love all those points. I think at the heart of that is being appreciative of, I was raised in the 70s. I was born dancing queen, and I just saw my mum give up her career and stay at home to raise us. So that was my framework. That was what I saw a lot of. And in the corporate world, it was probably still, some of that was still at the point where women were feeling they had to be a bit more masculine in their traits to kind of push forward and get to the level they want to. And actually, some of my best bosses were women, and some of my worst bosses were women, for a whole range of reasons. But I do think for me, diversity and equality at the heart of it is helping people to show up as who they truly are across that gender spectrum, across a race spectrum, across their heritage, and just bring all of that into work, bring their whole person to work. Be confident enough to know that you won't be judged for that. If you're doing that, you're setting a role model example to other people. And if you have the framework to do that, and a structure and a corporate world to do that, that's also going to then allow other people to do the same. And don't be ashamed if you feel like you've got, I'm sure I've got some biases. I'm sure I've got some white privilege going on. And actually, it's down to me to be aware and educate myself and not be ashamed, but to go, actually, this is something that doesn't really fit with where we are now. I need to change this.
And I think that awareness is starting to happen. And the more that we can have conversations around it, then that allows that to happen even further, doesn't it?
Definitely. So, Amy, we've got any final tips on confidence for those that have listened and stayed with us?
Look inwards, don't look outwards.
I like that. Definitely. And where can anyone watching, where can they find you?
So you can find me. So my website is amyleighton.com, or I hang out on LinkedIn. I think it's Amy-Leighton, linkedin.com. Amy-Leighton.
Rachel, oh wow, I became blind 3 years ago and I have more confidence than I've ever had. Wow, Rachel, that's incredible. I'd love to hear more about your story. Wow. And I love how sometimes it takes going through this very, life-changing thing to have that confidence out of it, and to, Rachel, I would love to hear more about your story and how that's changed things for you. That's amazing. Right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I will be back on Monday and I'm going to be talking about imposter syndrome, which is a huge topic. We touched on it a tiny bit today, and why it might feel like women struggle more with imposter syndrome, but actually it's proven and stats show that 95% of people in the corporate world struggle with it at some point. So yes, good point, Adam. This applies to women because I mainly work with women, but it can also very much apply to men as well. So you can see people in the room, so I'm always a chosen speaker from the exec team.
Love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about your story, Rachel. Right. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much. So the next episode of the podcast is out on Friday. It's talking about toxic gender stereotypes, and it's going to be just talking about how it becomes too much, or how it makes us to have assumptions about people, or maybe we feel need to behave in a certain way. Is what we want, is what we've talked about, is being yourself and showing up with your whole self at work and getting that on fire feeling to have the impact and influence that you want. So but I'd love to know what you think, and thank you for joining us. We've had Adam and Rachel and a couple of people that can't actually see their names because of StreamYard, so I'll come back and see the comments in a bit. So thank you so much, Amy.
Thanks so much.